The moment you walk into a luxury flagship boutique, you probably think you are a customer, right? But the uncomfortable truth is you are actually being scored.
Yeah, it is a really harsh reality to wake up to, honestly, because luxury brands, well, at their core, they don't actually sell products.
Right.
They sell access to this highly engineered, entirely invisible hierarchy. I mean, within seconds of you crossing that threshold, the sales associates are reading micro signals.
Like what kind of signals?
They're looking at your watch, they're looking at your shoes, they're analyzing the exact cadence and phrasing you use to ask about a price.
Wow.
And they are reading the confidence of your posture. They literally categorize you before you even say hello.
I think we've all felt that, you know? You walk past one of those massive glass storefronts, the ones with exactly one handbag sitting under a spotlight on a marble pedestal.
Oh yeah, the intimidating ones.
Exactly, and you get that weird flutter of intimidation before you even pull the door handle. But the fact that there's a literal codified system behind that feeling is mind-blowing.
It really is.
So today, for this deep dive, we are unpacking a fascinating document all about this. It's called The Invisible Hierarchy of Luxury Retail Status. We're going to explore exactly how you are treated at every single stage of wealth.
And the tiers are staggering.
They are, because at a net worth of, say, $0 to $50,000, you basically just receive basic politeness, if you're lucky.
Right, just enough politeness to ensure you don't make a scene, but definitely not enough to actually encourage you to stay.
But then the paradigm shifts, right?
Yeah, so when you cross into the $1 million plus territory, they finally know your name, they have your phone number, but it gets wilder.
Wait, how much wilder?
Well, at $10 million plus, the store physically closes for you. They literally draw the blinds.
No way.
Yes. And at $50 million plus, the entire model reverses. The brand doesn't even wait for you to walk in. They come directly to your home.
Okay, babe, well, let's pause on that for a second, because I need to understand the logistics here. When you say they come to your home, what does that actually look like? Are they just like mailing you a fancy catalog?
Oh, far from it.
Yeah.
At that 50 million plus tier, they are flying a regional director and a master tailor out to your private residence.
You're kidding.
No, whether that's in Aspen or Monaco, they're bringing a curated selection of pieces, some of which, by the way, have never been seen by the public.
How do they even know what to bring?
Based entirely on a passing comment your spouse made in a Paris boutique, like 3 years ago.
Yeah.
The boutique comes to you. You essentially exist above the concept of retail space entirely.
That is insane. It's like moving through different dimensions of reality based entirely on an invisible number hovering over your head.
That's exactly what it is.
But if I'm just an average person walking in, the sales associate doesn't have my tax returns. They can't see my bank account balance. So if they are building this intense psychological and financial profile on me in real time, how does that actually manifest?
It's all digital.
So there has to be some sort of digital architecture running the show behind the scenes, right? How do they track this?
You've hit on the exact mechanism. Luxury retail runs on a very specific, highly tuned operational system. They call it clienteling.
Clienteling. Okay, that sounds like a fancy word for a mailing list.
I mean, people think that, but it is so much more than a mailing list. It is a rigorous, deeply integrated customer relationship management system, a CRM.
Right.
Imagine a dashboard on the iPad that the associate is just casually holding. Every single purchase you make, every return you process, every seemingly casual interaction you have with the staff is meticulously logged.
So they're taking notes on me.
Constantly. Heritage brands like Hermes and Chanel, they maintain internal scoring systems that quietly rank you long before you even realize a game is being played.
Okay, let's unpack this because this sounds like a secret credit score. But instead of FICO tracking your loans, it's a status score tracking your loyalty.
That is a perfect analogy.
So when the associate excuses themselves to, check the stock in the back, they aren't just looking through boxes in a stockroom.
Not at all. They're looking at a terminal, they're pulling up your profile, they are looking at your purchase velocity over the last 36 months.
Purchase velocity.
Yeah, how often you buy, and they're checking your return ratio. They are noting if you only ever buy highly visible, logo-heavy items, or if you buy quiet, high-margin categories like ready-to-wear clothing and fine jewelry.
Oh, wow.
They are tracking the length of your relationship with the brand. And all of this feeds into your internal score.
Which brings up a scenario that I think is the ultimate nightmare for anyone who cares about this stuff. Two people are in this store, right? One person asks for a specific, highly coveted item, let's just say a Birkin bag, and the associate apologetically tells them, "I'm so sorry, we are completely out of stock, it's unavailable."
Happens all the time.
But then the person standing 3 feet away asks for the exact same bag in the exact same color. And miraculously, the associate says, "We actually just had one arrive in the back."
Yep.
How does that happen?
Because availability in this ecosystem has absolutely nothing to do with inventory.
Really?
Yeah, the bag is physically in the building for both of them, but it is only accessible to one of them. The brands are literally manufacturing scarcity.
Well, so they just lie.
Well, the CRM tells the associate that the first person has a low status score and the second person has a high status score. Therefore, the bag exists for person B and it does not exist for person A.
So they are literally playing God with the inventory.
Yes. Because the real currency in these flagship stores is access, not price. I mean, think about it. Anyone can eventually save up enough money to buy a product.
Sure, people save for years.
Exactly. Money is relatively common. But far fewer people are ever invited to build the relationship that makes future access to those products possible. The relationship itself, not the leather handbag or the mechanical watch, is the actual true product being sold to you.
Hold on. Here's where it gets really interesting, because I'm struggling to understand this from a pure business perspective.
Okay, lay it on me.
If I walk in off the street, ready to hand over $10,000 in cold, hard cash for a flagship designer bag, any normal business would treat me like absolute royalty.
They would roll out the red carpet.
Right. Are you telling me these brands are actively penalizing people for handing them money? That sounds like a terrible way to run a business. Why would they turn down guaranteed revenue?
I know, it sounds terrible. Until you look at the math of long-term brand equity versus short-term cash flow. This is what the document calls the trap of the aspirational buyer.
The aspirational buyer. Okay.
When you walk in with that $10,000 you painstakingly saved up for months, you think you are signaling to the brand that you have arrived. You think you are buying your way into the club.
Because I have the money.
Right. But what you are actually doing is flagging yourself in their CRM as a one-time transactional buyer.
Because I'm blowing my whole budget on one massive item.
Exactly. And in this ecosystem, a one-time transactional buyer is literally the lowest value customer type you can be.
Wait, really? The lowest?
The lowest. Sales staff are trained for weeks to distinguish trophy buyers from genuine relationship clients. The trophy buyer just wants the logo to prove to the outside world that they have money.
Okay, I see.
The brand knows that this person is likely never coming back to buy an $80 hand towel or a $3,000 cashmere sweater with no logo on it.
Wait, so the painful irony here is that the harder someone stretches financially for that ultimate status symbol, the less internal status the brand actually assigns them.
That is the devastating reality of it. You walk in thinking you're proving you belong, and the system instantly tags you as a tourist.
Ouch. A tourist.
Yeah, single purchase customers rarely, if ever, get escalated to VIP treatment. Absolutely, no matter how much that one specific item cost. Because the associate sees that you are mistaking the artifact of wealth for the actual behavior of wealth.
Okay, I want to double click on that. The artifact of wealth versus the behavior of wealth. If I'm listening to this and I'm looking down at the logo heavy designer belt I just bought as a treat to myself, I'm looking at the artifact, right? The physical object.
Precisely. The artifact is the trophy, the belt, the watch, the bag. It is a static object. But true VIP tiers are built on behavior.
And what does that behavior look like?
The behavior of wealth is consistent, diversified, and largely unbothered spending. Wealthy clients don't just buy the giant logo bag.
Right.
They buy the matching wallet, they buy the tableware for their yacht, they buy the ready-to-wear coats that have zero branding on them. Their spend is distributed across multiple categories over years.
So the brand sees the guy who saves up for a year to buy a Rolex Daytona as a liability, basically.
Exactly.
But the guy who casually buys his wife a pearl necklace, buys himself some cufflinks, and then maybe asks about a watch a year later, that guy is the asset.
Yes, because the second guy is demonstrating the lifestyle. He's not just purchasing a prop for a performance.
So what does this all mean? If this one-time purchase trap is so incredibly detrimental to the buyer status and they are essentially being mocked by the invisible hierarchy, why do aspirational buyers keep falling for it over and over again?
Because of the psychology.
It feels like these brands are weaponizing our own psychological biases and letting FOMO do their marketing for them.
They absolutely are. It is a masterclass in weaponized psychology The entire business model is based on intentional underproduction relative to demand.
They don't make enough on purpose.
Yes. Brands deliberately manufacture 10%, sometimes 20% fewer items than they know the market will absorb.
Leaving that unfulfilled demand hanging in the air.
Exactly. And that creates a state of constant psychological tension. It exploits a well-documented cognitive bias known as scarcity heuristics.
Okay, break that down for me. Scarcity heuristics. Why does our brain care so much if something is hard to get?
From an evolutionary standpoint, scarcity heuristics make perfect sense. In the wild, if a resource like water or high-calorie food is scarce, your brain is hardwired to assign it immense value.
Because scarcity meant survival.
Right. So when your brain encounters something that is artificially limited, it subconsciously equates that limited availability with higher intrinsic worth.
Even if it's just a leather bag.
Exactly. It completely bypasses your logical assessment of the item's actual material value, like the cost of leather and stitching, and drives a dopamine loop that makes you chase the access itself.
So they are literally hacking our survival instincts to sell us leather goods. We want it desperately just because we are told we can't have it.
Yes. And society completely compounds this natural bias. Think about social media.
Oh yeah, the ultimate multiplier.
It has mutated luxury ownership from what used to be a private enjoyment into a relentless public performance metric. We are all constantly engaging in what the source calls reference group comparison.
Which basically means looking at what our neighbors have and feeling bad about ourselves.
Right. But it's no longer just the neighbor down the street. Your reference group is now global. You open TikTok or Instagram, and you are comparing yourself to increasingly wealthy, highly curated peer circles.
You see, like 19-year-old influencers unboxing $50,000 watches.
Exactly. And it completely distorts your perception of what is normal and what is attainable.
It creates this massive collective anxiety. I mean, you see people objectively ruining their finances to keep up with an algorithm, and the brands are just sitting back watching this frenzy and reaping the rewards.
It is a brilliant, albeit somewhat dark reality for these companies. They profit immensely from the chase itself.
The chase is the product.
Yes. The wait lists, the agonizing anticipation, the illusion of relationship building with a brand that is playing hard to get. This entire ecosystem often generates more overarching value and brand equity than the actual financial transaction.
People are just spending immense emotional and financial energy chasing access.
Exactly. Rather than stepping back and asking, is this watch actually worth $30,000 of my labor?
It's the thrill of the hunt, but the hunter is actually the prey.
That's a great way to put it.
Okay, so now that we understand the psychological trap, the manufactured scarcity, and this invisible CRM scoring system, let's look at a side-by-side comparison of how these two different types of buyers actually operate in the real world.
Let's do it.
If I'm a sales associate, I'm watching people walk in all day. Let me see if I can picture the aspirational buyer. Contrast the guy walking in sweating, demanding the hottest watch in the case, versus the strategic client who actually knows how to play the game.
Okay, so let's start with the aspirational buyer.
This is the person who is maybe a little nervous, right? They walk in, they have singular mission, they march straight up to the glass case, point at the hardest to get item and say, do you have this? Am I close?
You are spot on. Their primary goal is remarkably simple and frankly short-sighted. They just want to own the item. They want the artifact.
Right.
They feel the intense pressure of that manufactured scarcity you just mentioned. And their instinct is urgency. They want to buy fast. They want to secure the trophy before it disappears.
Because they think urgency proves they have the money. Like, look how fast I can drop this cash. Give me the bag.
Precisely. They think speed signals wealth. But to the associate, speed signals desperation.
Oh, wow.
So what is the outcome of that behavior in the CRM? Immediate categorization as transactional. They play their entire hand in the first 3 seconds.
So they're doomed.
Basically. The associate might sell them a lesser item if they're lucky, but they did not gain an inch of actual status within the brand's hierarchy.
Okay, so that's the trap. Now let's flip it. What does the strategic wealthy client do? If a billionaire walks into a flagship store and they also secretly really want that same rare watch, how do they navigate that exact same space without triggering the transactional alarm?
It is a completely different playbook, and it requires immense discipline. The strategic client's goal isn't the item at all.
Wait, it's not.
No, it is building their relationship with the associate. They view the associate not as a vending machine, but as a gatekeeper and an ally.
So they don't immediately ask for the watch.
Never. They walk in and they let the sales associate lead the interaction. They build personal rapport. They ask the associate about their taste, their recommendations, and crucially, their spend pattern is different.
How so?
It is smaller, it is consistent, and it is diversified. They will go over to the homeware section, they will buy a crystal ashtray, or they will buy a scarf.
They appreciate the whole brand, not just the hype.
Exactly. Their view of scarcity is flipped. Instead of feeling pressure and acting with urgency, they use patience as their ultimate leverage.
Patience.
Yes, patience signals that they are unbothered. It signals that they already have nice things and they are in no rush.
That is so counterintuitive. We are taught that money buys speed, but in this world, slowing down is the ultimate flex.
It is, because the outcome of this strategic patience and diversified spending is escalation.
In the CRM.
Exactly. The associate flags them in the CRM as a high potential relationship client. They get invited to the private appointments in the back room with the velvet couches. They get previews of new collections before they hit the floor.
And then they get the watch.
And eventually, almost effortlessly, they're offered the exact hot items the aspirational buyer was desperately begging for at the front counter.
Because they proved they didn't need it. So the core difference here is that the strategic client understands a fundamental truth about this entire ecosystem.
Which is?
Influence, not income, is what unlocks the top tier. They treat access as a long-term asset to be cultivated rather than a single transaction to be executed.
That is the perfect synthesis. Luxury brands simply do not reward wealth in a vacuum. A high bank account balance means nothing to them because wealth is common in their world.
Right.
What they reward are legible, consistent, and diversified relationships. Breaking into that coveted top tier is entirely about understanding the system behind the product, not just affording the price tag attached to it.
So if you are listening to this right now and you want to actually navigate this world, or really, if you think about it, any high-stakes environment where access is the real currency, like a high-end real estate negotiation or trying to get into an exclusive private club, what is the actionable playbook?
The rules to engineer access are incredibly clear once you see the matrix.
Sure.
First, do not chase a single product.
Right.
Focus entirely on building a relationship with one specific gatekeeper, one specific sales associate. Let them be your champion.
Okay, that's step one.
Second, diversify your spending. Do not blow your entire budget on one large, obvious purchase. Spread it out across smaller, less obvious categories to prove you appreciate the ecosystem.
The ashtray, the scarf.
Exactly. And third, let scarcity work for you. Remember that patience signals status much more effectively than urgency ever does. Urgency smells like desperation.
And desperation is definitely not luxury. I love that. You know, this whole deep dive really shifts how you look at the world. It's not just about handbags or watches. It's about power dynamics.
Absolutely.
It's about how humans signal value to each other. So I want to leave you with this thought to mull over. Treat every interaction as reputation building, not just transaction closing.
Because if you're just looking for a simple transaction, you're playing the wrong game entirely. The house always wins that game.
Exactly. The next time you walk into a high-end environment, whether it's a luxury retail store, a high-stakes business negotiation, or even an exclusive social setting, ask yourself, are you frantically trying to buy a trophy to prove you belong? Or are you quietly, patiently building the influence that makes them come to you?
The invisible hierarchy is always scoring.
The only question is, do you know how to read the scoreboard?